I'm not. Roxanne's already gone. Just Big Tom is leading this thing or what?
Yep, I'm leading this thing. You guys need to mute yourselves.
Mute, Jeff.
Kathy and Jeff. So yeah, you want to mute yourself. So we want to thank everybody for coming out to Eastern Alliance for Production Katahdin's fall webinar series. We hope to continue this and have it every I guess the fourth Wednesday of each month, except for November and December. We're going to move it up to the third Wednesday so that we don't have to compete with Thanksgiving or Christmas. And I know I've been a bad boy, so I'm not that concerned about Christmas. But Thanksgiving, you can't get in my way for that. So we do ask everybody make sure that you are muted so we don't have any background noise. Because I believe if I mute you, you won't be able to unmute unless I unmute you. So with that, we've got Zach Meinders on tonight from PL Livestock Auction. And Zach's I think he's gonna walk us through how he likes to do things for his sales, and he's pretty good at selling cattle and pretty good at selling sheep, I believe. So we're gonna let Zach take it away.
Sounds good. I'll try to share my screen here, and then we'll get rolling.
We'll see how that works.
Yeah, it had me send a request, so.
Okay, and I hit allow.
Can you see my screen?
Nope.
Okay, let's see here. Try that again.
Looks like we're on the right track.
How about now?
Yep. You just need to go into presenter mode, I believe. There you go.
Am I good?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, I don't do this a lot, so. All right, yeah, like he said, my name is Zach Meinders from Buffalo Center, Iowa. We raise sheep and cattle here, do some corn and soybeans. So this is my presentation on marketing and promoting breeding stock. It's kind of from the cattle and sheep angle, so I'll jump back and forth between each. For the most part, it's pretty similar. So yeah, so like I said, I don't do this a lot, so if I'm going too fast or too slow, just holler at me, and if anyone's got any questions as we go along, just speak up and we can do those as we go. So alrighty, like I said, a little bit about Minder Stock Farms. My brother Jake and I are what we call Minder Stock Farms. That is our partnership. We kind of farm alongside my dad and my uncle. Together, the whole operation farms about 1,500 acres of corn and soybeans, about 500 acres of pasture. We run about 500 cows, Angus, some Angus stabilizer, feed out about 500 head of steers. We're selling right now about 100 plus bulls a year. We'll sell 50 Angus, Sim Angus, and Charolais bulls in a live sale we have here every third week or every third Saturday of April. And I'll sell another 60 stabilizer bulls, which is a hybrid breed of cattle. We'll sell those through Leachman Cattle in Wyoming. We AI about 300 cows a year, transfer about 125 embryos. So we try to stay on the cutting edge of the genetics there as well. We have about 200 Polypay, Katahdin, and Texel ewes that we run an accelerated lambing program. We sell about 50 plus rams a year, primarily through online sales and some consignment sales and some off the farm as well. And then my wife Macy and I own and operate Production Livestock Auctions, plauctions.live, and that's kind of my side gig that works along well with our stock operation. So getting into just marketing, planning a sale, planning the time that you want to sell your cattle or sheep. A lot of this stuff probably sounds like you're planning for a sale. It'd be no different if you're just planning for an open house on the farm or just getting your sheep ready for a certain date to be available to be sold. So the questions you got to ask yourself when you're trying to decide when you want to have your sale or when your sheep are going to be ready to be sold. When are your livestock ready to be pictured or videoed? One mistake some people will make will be trying to picture those sheep before they are big enough in the correct condition to take a good picture, and sometimes you make that animal look worse than they actually are. How does your sale fit your buyer's schedule? For like my bull sale, one thing I'm thinking of, is this going to clash too much with corn planting, or calving? Our guy's going to be able to get away. For my bull sale, we ended up doing a Saturday evening sale, just to, let guys get their stuff done during the day and come out in the evening, have supper, and have that sale. Hopefully that doesn't interrupt their day too much. So, what location is best for you and your buyers? Again, if you're doing a consignment sale, that might depend on, where you think your buyers are, where's a good site to have this sale. If you're having your own deal, is your farm the best place to display those animals, or are you better off to take them to, let's say the local fairgrounds or something of that nature to get those things presented the best you can. The time of the sale would be the same kind of deal. Like I mentioned earlier, we did an evening sale for our bull sale. A lot of these online sales close at 7 in the evening, Central Time, I should say. For the most part, we don't mess with that a lot, just because everyone is so used to that 7 o'clock ending time. Now we will have the University of Wisconsin sale is Saturday. They'll end it at noon, because he wants people to be able to show up on site during his sale, look at sheep, bid, and then take them home that same day. And then the next thing, confirm with your sale manager, your auctioneer, your ring staff, the person doing your online sale for you, anyone that's got to help, make sure those dates work with them before you throw out a date and then have to come back and possibly change that date. So sale animal preparation, first of all, you got to make sure all your data is complete, submitted, and updated. This stuff can get away from you. That's, you kind of got to put that sale day or sale time on the calendar and work backwards, thinking, how long is it going to take me to get my new EPDs? How long is it going to take me to get my genomics run? All that stuff. So we're getting that stuff done in plenty of time. Same thing with, your DNA testing, genomics, codon, whatever you want to do. And then, it's a little thing. Some people don't like to do it, but, as far as these Katahdins go, or any breed of sheep or cattle, it really does do a lot of good just to give them a quick wash or brush or clip or torch, just to, again, get those animals presented in their best light. We're not trying to make them look like anything they're not. But, a lot of, and I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes I look at my Katahdins and say, they're clean, but then you go ahead and wash a couple and they can get a lot whiter than they originally looked. So, I think that's a good thing to do. On our cattle yesterday, we clipped and torched all of our heifers, and then today we pictured, and it definitely makes those pictures look a little sharper. So, picturing your livestock, this is a big deal here when we're talking about marketing livestock, especially on online sales or anything where you're building a catalog. There's a lot of steps to it. I'm going to try to run down some quick bullet points on picturing livestock, and I got a couple pictures and a couple examples that should try to help there. So first of all, let's try to pick a sunny day that's not too hot. We want the sheep to be comfortable, but we want the sun out, so they are pictures look that way. We have the right lighting, that kind of stuff. Find some people that can help you. Picturing usually takes, usually when we do sheep, it's just my brother and I. When we do cattle, it's usually 4 of us. Set up a picture pen that is round, has a good background, made out of, gates you can trust. The last thing you want to do is worry about your animals getting out of the picture pen or breaking out. That's picturing can be a frustrating job, so you don't want to add that possibility into the mix. I like about a 20 by 30 feet pen for picturing sheep, about twice that big for cattle. The best pictures I would say would be on on short grass. If we're picturing in the summer, we picture a lot of animals during the winter and that too. So a lot of times then we'll put them on a concrete floor, a level floor, put a little bedding in there and put them in front of a wood fence background that I'll show you when we come up here too. So make sure the sun is at your back. You want to see your shadow in front of you, the animal shadow behind them. That helps you for the lighting of the animal. That's again a big one, an easy one that a lot of people, you know, make mistakes on. Make sure you only have one animal in the picture pen at a time. You know, a lot of times you think, you know, if I run a couple in there, they're going to be more calm. Yes, but they're never going to get away from each other to get a good picture, and that just makes it tricky. So one thing we will do sometimes is we will get a sheep or a calf on a halter and just tie them up into the corner of that picture pen, and that'll give that animal in the pen a little more comfort, thinking they're not alone. And sometimes even with videos, we'll take that haltered animal and walk it across the pen, and the other animal will typically just follow right behind. So that works pretty good. It is best, yeah, it's best to have one person on each side of the animal when we're picturing stuff. So one person can push them into the pose, the next person can stop them, get their head up. You know, to do this well, you really need people that are very familiar with livestock behavior and know how those animals are going to react when you take a step left or right or towards them or back, all that kind of stuff. Typically for sheep, I just use my iPhone for taking those pictures. You know, these pictures on the iPhones are pretty good anymore. And, you know, typically on the sheep, you're so close that you don't have to zoom much. So you can get away with an iPhone on sheep. Cattle will use our camera, which my camera, I'm no expert on cameras or this or that, but I have a 70 by 200 lens that we use for cattle. Works pretty good. Sometimes it's probably too big of a lens. I can't get further enough off the animal if we're in a too small of a picture pen, but that's what we do. Take the pictures. I like to take the picture with the camera at the hip height level and lined up with kind of their rear hip or their back legs. So I'm kind of picturing the animal with the head just a little further away from me than the hip, and right at the back level of that animal. I think that's the best angle. If we get too high or too low or too far in front or too far behind, that animal starts to look distorted in the picture, makes it look like it's got a big rear end or a big head, or that it's bigger or smaller than it actually is. So the pose we're looking for, just like these animals on the right side here, I like the back legs, the closer back leg. We want that straight back. I kind of like that hock to foot, about straight up and down, and then the opposite side leg forward. That kind of makes their hip and back top line look the best. And then the front legs, I like that front leg just slightly in front of the backside front leg. Their head, neck, I like them looking pretty much straight forward, but slightly towards me. I like to be able to see just a little bit of their face. That's probably just a personal preference. Straightforward doesn't bother me. I don't really like them looking away. Same thing with their ears. We want those ears relaxed, pointed forward, and their tail not going too crazy. And again, if anyone has any questions or anything, any comments or questions, just you can holler at me, and we can stop and talk. But editing pictures. All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, this is Jim Malooly. Do you ever photograph pens or sell in pens?
Yeah.
And if so, do you have some tips there?
Yep, and we do that. I did not touch on that in my slides here, but we do that, and that is, it's obviously faster and easier to picture. It is tricky to get them, to act like you want in the pen. In the perfect world, you get three animals, then they kind of line up, stacked half and half, each one another foot forward, and they all look at you. But that is tricky to do. Usually when we do it, we'll run 3 to 5 in the pen and take multiple pictures and just kind of see which ones, don't have an animal, with their head down or trying to jump out or this and that. What I would say probably the best thing to do when we're talking about groups is maybe just a video and keep those things moving rather than a picture. I know it's nice to have a picture to kind of head your advertisement there, but a video probably does us the most good too. That we can see those animals on the move and see them move in circles, so we're not always looking at the first two in the front.
All right, thank you. And you're thinking pens 3 to 5. You're not doing pens of 50.
Right. And if we're doing pens of 50, then we're definitely going to want to be to the point where we're just doing videos. I mean,
Okay.
again, one picture, again, when we're looking at 50, one picture is fine. And you're just going to get, kind of a pasture setting or whatever pen setting of those animals. But, the most we're going to learn is through a video. And, that's how most big chunks, big jags of livestock would sell, say if you're buying feeder calves or a group of bred heifers online, those are just going to sell with a video.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
When you're doing it like a video, what's the best length for something like that to upload?
Yeah, and I will get into a little of that. We're going to get into some
okay.
videos. Yeah, so I'll come back to that in a couple slides here. So yeah, so once we do picture here, editing these pictures can make a big difference. And when I talk about editing, I'm not talking about photoshopping, again, making those animals different than they are. I'm just talking about, presenting that picture and that animal in the best light. So when I get a picture, the first thing I do is crop it, kind of tighten that animal, get them bigger in the screen. I see a lot of these pictures where the animals, way in the background, and you got to zoom in on your phone just to see the animal. So let's take that out of the deal. So I'll crop it, zoom in if it is necessary, and then straighten out the picture a little bit. So I don't know if you can see these pictures on the right. A lot of times their hip is, a little higher. It looks a little higher than their front shoulder. If you twist that animal, and you can do this just on your iPhone too, if you twist that picture 1 or 2%, a lot of times that makes that animal look a lot better and looks more like they actually look in person than in that picture. So straightening those out can do a lot of good. Like I said, if you do want to get fancy, you can do some Photoshop and just take a chunk of dirt off their shoulder or something like that. I don't do that much with sheep. I will do it with my cattle, and I'm not going to get into Photoshop either, but it's pretty simple to do. A lot of that stuff is just automatic anymore with all the technology you have these days. So a couple more edits here. We pictured heifers today, actually. So these pictures are pictures we took today. So these are the same pictures before and after. I just cropped, straightened, and cleaned them up a little bit. So again, that first picture, that black heifer, she's kind of looks like she's walking downhill. We can straighten that up a little bit. One thing you will have to watch, and again, sometimes the angles can be deceiving, but if you have a gate behind them like I do have there, you can only twist it 1 or 2%. Otherwise you're going to start running that gate too far uphill, and it looks like you're messing with it a lot. But usually 1 or 2% is about all I go, but it can do a lot of good. And again, like on that red heifer at the bottom, mainly just cropping that picture and twisting it back 1%, cleaning off her butt a little bit, I think really improves that photo. So again, here's another one. Again, when I'm managing these sales, we do get a lot of bad pictures on there. I usually don't have much to say to the consigners, because I don't know how much I should say, but again, it really helps to have a good picture, especially when selling online. So again, these are pictures I took today. And I think it's pretty easy which ones you'd rather buy. I mean, these are the same animals, a poor picture versus a bad one. And I took a couple of these poor pictures on purpose for this tonight. But that top black one, she's just a little on the move. I mean, she looks okay in that picture, but you can't really see what she is. We're on the right. We get a heck of a profile out of her eventually. The red, again, we'll see pictures like this. This is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, when somebody takes a vertical picture like this and doesn't crop it down the other way. Again, even as you're looking at it on my screen, you can't hardly see that animal back there, just because I didn't crop the picture the correct way. So that's probably one of my big pet peeves. Let's make sure we crop those pictures the correct way. We want that animal to fill up most of that picture, probably at least half of that picture with their body. All right, so here we'll get into videoing a little bit. Here's a cattle video. I'm a lot better with my cattle videos than my sheep videos, I'll admit, but and cattle are easier to video than sheep just because they're typically a little more calm in the pen. But you know, here's one of our yearling bulls we sold this year. So we use the same pen, and this is my cattle picture pen you see here. And we're usually doing this work in February and March, mostly February. So we use the same pen as we picture in. If anything, you'd want that pen to be a little longer than your picture pen, just so that animal can walk one way longer and you know, without having to turn around. So I try to get 5 to 10 second clips, and then we'll put 3 or 4 of those. We'll edit 3 or 4 of those together to get a total of about 20 to 30 seconds. I think, you know, a couple of years ago, a lot of guys would tell me in cattle, you know, you want 45 seconds of video. I think most people are going down to 30. I think, you know, you can learn everything you need in 20 to 30 seconds. And honestly, people's attention spans aren't good enough to watch the whole 45 seconds anyways. So, like I said, cattle are easier than sheep. We try putting the cattle or the sheep in pens on each side of that video pen. That way that animal can walk back and forth, you know, to their peers. Again, just to try to get them the feeling that they're not alone in there. Try to keep them calm, try to keep them acting right. And this is probably even more important on the sheep side than cattle, again, because you know how much sheep like to stay with their buddies. So if you put some on each side, that'll usually help quite a bit. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, you could consider using a halter broke animal either just to tie up in the corner or just to pull around in front of that animal to get that video. I mean, most like the club calf guys or the show animal guys, that's how they will video all their animals, and they actually picture their animals on halters and then just Photoshop the halter off. But that's how those guys do it. Sale advertising, you know, here's a couple print ads I did, and I don't always necessarily go into magazines with these ads. Sometimes I'll just use them for Facebook, but I think it looks professional and you know, makes it look like, you know, your event is a big deal, or hopefully it does. So, you know, the one in the middle there is an ad I did for my my bred cow sale here coming up this fall that we were picturing for today. And then the one on the right is my entries to the Center of the Nation sale in Spencer. So again, with these ads, what's important is, you know, who are you? What are you selling? When is it? Where is it? And what's your contact info? Again, that's a big pet peeve of mine. You know, you see an ad for something and you cannot find where they are. You know, is it in Iowa or is it in California? You know, it makes a big difference. And same thing with all of it. You know, you need to know when it is, where it is, and you know, who we're talking about. And some of that comes through as far as who, you know, I try to get my Minder Stock Farm logo on everything. You know, that comes back to branding and you know, recognition of your ads and recognition of your brand and your program. So I try to get that in there everywhere just so people notice that. So on these ads, you know, you got to kind of ask yourself, you know, what can you put on it that is going to make your animals better or different or more unique than the next guys? Because, you know, everyone's selling rams, everyone's selling bulls, all that stuff's out there, you know, and you got to find a way to differentiate yourself, because with just a picture or just a poor picture, you know, you don't look any more special than anyone else. And obviously EBVs help, and that's a big deal. If you can put a good picture with good EBVs, that's when you really got it made. So try to make these ads eye-catching. You know, I try to put a little, you know, kind of a scenic picture in the background and put some good pictures and use some colorful wording just to try to get people to at least stop and take a look at your ad. Again, good pictures are a must. Include your logo or brand, and you know, try to stay somewhat consistent with your marketing. You know, most of my cattle ads look like this. If you're making your ads look completely different every month, you know, that first of all, some people might overlook it, not realizing it's yours, and it just gives you a less consistent look. You know, maybe it looks like you're switching things around a little more. So I like to try to stay fairly consistent. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but you know, kind of the same look on all of those. So again, I'll talk just a little bit about some catalog design here. and I know a lot of you guys aren't doing catalogs or anything like that, so we won't mess with it much. But let's see if I can get this out of my way here. So here's a catalog for, I guess this is for my bull sale this spring. So again, the cover, try to get a good picture on there. This picture's all right. It's not too special. Again, where, what time, you know, what you're selling. You know, I give a little bit of a, you know, just a little bit of an introduction to the sale here. On the right side here, right away, I try to get all of your details out of there, you know, order of events, sale day phone, who's your auctioneer, all this good stuff. Here's a little map, how to get there, you know, our herd health, our sale order, all that good stuff, where you can watch the sale online. Couple support pages here. We do a calf buyback program. We give away a heifer every year on our sale, kind of promotion things. Here's a little rundown about my family's history and how we got to where we are today as an operation and as a family. I think people really accept this page well. People really like reading that, and I kind of like the history stuff too. So here's just some of my numbers and EPDs explained.
Hey, Zach,
Yes.
I think we're behind on your slides.
Okay. Are you seeing, maybe you're not seeing mine.
We are still on catalog design and layout.
Okay. Okay. So I clicked on my, let me see if I can do this. You are sharing your screen. All right. Maybe this isn't going to work. I was kind of flipping through my my catalog online, but I didn't put it in my spreadsheet. I just put a link for me to get it. So
Okay.
maybe we'll just and this isn't a big deal, but let me get back.
And that would explain the page turning sound.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let me get back into my, oops. All right.
While he's working on that, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or just hang around there till the end and we'll just hang out and answer some questions.
All right. I think I'm back.
Okay.
Okay. So again, my catalog here, and as I was saying, and I can share this, you know, I can share this later, or you can go to my website or Facebook if you want to see one of my catalogs. But yeah, just kind of you know, what we try to do is kind of tell a story about, you know, how we got there and what we're doing. Try to get people to buy into the program more so even than buying into specific animals. So kind of that whole catalog tries to tell a story like that. And then of course, lay out all of our data and our pictures and try to, you know, promote our animals, you know, with the most information we can without getting too complicated. So I use Adobe InDesign to build my ads and catalogs. And, you know, I think a good looking catalog is pretty important. Alrighty. Alrighty. So again, online sale catalogs, which is probably more relevant to a lot of people selling sheep. So when we're talking about doing online sales, I tell people, you know, I like to get all of the information up 7 to 10 days before the sale. You know, that varies. There's a lot of guys that will wait. I mean, till the last couple days before getting their stuff up. Some guys get it up before. I kind of like to get it up 7 to 10 days before, let that guy see that information, think about it. You know, if there's a lot of sheep on the sale, or, you know, if you got some lots of, you know, 30 or 40, like we do on some of these commercial sales, you know, some of these guys might want more than one day to think about, you know, spending you know, several $1,000s. So I like to get that up early, include as much data and information as possible. Again, try to do that without, you know, confusing the buyers and putting too much out there. Pictures, videos, pedigrees, EBVs, footnotes, you know, kind of like to have all that stuff to tell the whole story. When I do my sales, yeah, I put a picture in there. I try to put a video. I put the NSIP pedigree page in my photos. That's usually the easiest thing to look at. And then of course we'll list our EBVs in the notes along with a footnote. Include an easy to access links for EBVs and registration. And now with Katahdin, and with our online registry. Link into that online registry is really easy, and you can link right to that animal. That's really useful. Same thing with the NSIP searchable database. If we put those links in there rather than making people copy and paste those NSIP numbers or go dig on it themselves, you'll get a lot more clicks and you'll get a lot more people looking at that stuff. As soon as you get your sale up, you got to promote it quickly on social media, direct contact, e-blast, that kind of stuff. Again, with these online sales being fairly last minute typically, or, we don't have the data up that long, we got to get right on that so people see that right away. And then probably best to come back, with a sale day reminder, especially to your buyers that are interested, just a quick reminder saying, hey, today's sale day, holler if you got any questions, just, it can be that simple. So, if you want to see a good setup sale, again, the University of Wisconsin has an online sale. It actually opens Friday and closes Saturday on PLA. And if you want to go to that sale, Todd Taylor does a really good job, picturing his sheep, promoting his sheep, getting all of his data lined up, and that's a pretty big sale. There's about 50 lots on there, so he does a pretty good job if you want to take a look at a good example. So same day marketing. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question on the lots that you just
Yes.
mentioned? Is there, it seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, that people that don't have like a whole bunch of lots on there do better than the ones that have like 50 lots?
Yeah, it sure depends, and it depends on who your buyers are. Personally, if I'm going to try to sell Katahdins, I don't have a market to sell big jags of like Katahdin rams or even ewes around here. Now, if I'm selling polypays, we can sell a dozen rams on a sale and sometimes 30 or 40 ewes and get along pretty well. But a lot of those go into, confinement operations where these guys are running, several hundred sheep. So we'll have, kind of different kind of buyers. So kind of depends on what your buyers are. If your buyers are all, people with, 25 to 50 ewes, it's hard to sell those people more than one sheep. If your buyers are big commercial guys, then it's a little different deal. And those big commercial guys will a lot of times want a big offering, so they have more to choose from and more ewes to pile together. So it's tricky. I would say in general, yes, a smaller sale probably would average more per lot, not necessarily more profitable overall, but that's probably correct. Now, Todd's sale, the University of Wisconsin sale, I shouldn't speak too soon, and I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but he's going to sell, he'll sell some pens on there too. He's going to sell probably 60 or 70 head on that sale, and he usually does really well with that. So I guess the answer to that is kind of depends.
Thank you.
Yep. So again, sale day marketing again depends on the on your system or what you're how you're selling those sheep. But first of all, always got to have your phone with you, ready to answer questions. People love to ask questions in last minute. I get probably half my questions on my sales during the extended bidding. I'll have guys message me and ask me to go take a picture of an animal's feet at 7:30 when the sale is when extended bidding started at 7. So you're going to get that. You want to help those guys. Sometimes you can't, but have that phone around, be ready. Be sure your animals are presented in their best light. If you're at a sale or you're presenting your sale on the farm, make sure they're clean, bedded in a got some bedding in the pen, full of feed. That is one thing that can, especially with cattle, probably can really make them look different, whether or not they've eaten or not, or get all that fill in their belly. And so getting them full is definitely important. And that's also important before we picture these animals. You really want to get them full of feed and get them to look like they got that maximum capacity. So I like to send out some sale day reminders. I usually send a lot of texts out to my past buyers, just saying it's sale day. But get some stuff out on social media. If you use that, you can use eBlast if you got a email list together. We've even used some radio ads for our bull sale at times, and they're actually fairly affordable usually. again, and know your sale animals and their data, so you don't have to look up everything as those questions come in. So, getting some of that data memorized, and, I know, depending on the size of your flock or herd, some people know their, the dams of their animals better than the next, but, having as much of that at your fingertips as possible is best. And one thing I really like to do is, when we're at a sale, no matter if it's a consignment sale or online sale or a live sale, we try to give away some promotional items to guys that buy. I like to give hats away, or we'll give paddles, sorting paddles away, or t-shirts, or any of that kind of stuff. People really light up when you get them a hat or something like that really looks good. And I really do think that is a big deal. And getting that guy to come back, or ending his experience there on a good note that first day. So I guess that's all I got. I think I threw this together yesterday, so I'm sure I missed a couple big topics I should have talked about. So if you see anything that, or if you got any questions, yeah, feel free to ask. Otherwise, that's what I got right now.
I found that to be crazy interesting. So do we have, what was the program that you used to make your sale ads?
Adobe InDesign.
Okay.
Yep.
That,
And that's going to cost you, unless you get all the Adobe products. I mean, it's going to cost you 30 or 40 bucks a month to have that.
mm-hmm.
If you're just doing one or two a month, you can just pay somebody to make those ads. And usually you can get those ads made for, 75 bucks to 150 bucks, depending on how good your person is. So I got to the point where I was making so many ads that I just taught myself how to do it and make them myself, and bought those programs, and it was, going to turn out to be cheaper in the long run for me.
Okay. So, do we have any questions? Feel free to unmute. You can turn your camera on if you like.
And I can go back to some past slides too, if anyone wants to see anything again.
For you being the sale platform,
Yep.
do you have a liability that the information is accurate?
I think, I mean, the short of it is, I mean, just like any sales or any live sales, all guarantees are between, the buyer and the seller. So I sure try to, go over everyone's data, make sure everything looks right, and make sure everything seems fair between the buyer and the seller. But for the most part, I don't get too involved in that. We do have some terms and conditions on every sale that just cover just some main things, mainly about just payment and that kind of stuff. But no, I mean, again, that kind of comes down to the relationship and the trust between the buyer and the seller.
Okay, thank you.
So since you have a platform, just curious, can you have two sales going on at the same time?
Yep. We can do as many as we can do as many as we want at a time. That's no big deal. Of course, if I can handle it, or if I can have it the way I want it, I don't put two on a day, just because then I got to flip back and forth and watch both of them at the end, make sure there's no issues. But we have done that a few times, and yeah, usually it's no problem. And actually, it probably has some benefit, because when people are already logged in looking at one sale, a lot of times they'll click in and look at the other one, and gets the traffic up. So it is nice to bunch these sales together. Like, I know in early June, or late May, early June, we have a Katahdin sale about every day for about a week and a half. And yeah, we get a lot of action on the site in those days. And that is really, really good. So, and I think a lot of consigners will see that and try to jump into that schedule on one of those free days to try to ride some of that momentum and traffic we get on that site.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. If you wanted to have a sale, if somebody was thinking of having the sale next spring, my thought was that we have to contact you right away and get a date booked, or can we where it's not necessarily competition then to get a date.
Right. And most guys use, no, I mean, you can do whenever you want, but most guys use the same date. So a lot of those Katahdin guys are, you know, they use the first Tuesday of the month or something like that. So they kind of stay out of each other's way a little bit that way.
Mhm.
So that is a good thing, but that is definitely what I would recommend. You know, if somebody wanted to have a sale to kind of get in, you know, that line, and those sales are kind of strict. You know, a lot of those guys with sales at that time, you know, they're sneaking that online sale in right before, you know, the Midwest Stud Ram sale, and that really helps sales go well when you have, you know, nationwide trucking options,
Yeah.
you know, available. And that's, I tell people that, I mean, pictures and trucking options are probably two of the most important things to make an online sale successful, because you know, no matter how much I like a ram that, let's say, is down in, you know, down in Georgia or something, you know, if I'm gonna have to pay $2,000 to get it here, you know, as opposed to, you know, a lot of people will just offer free delivery to Sedalia, you know, that makes a huge difference. You know, then you can put that animal, or, you know, that money towards an animal, or whatever the case may be. So that is kind of why I think a lot of those sales are in early June. And then, you know, there's kind of another wave of sales in late June or early July, kind of before the EAPK sale. We get some trucking, you know, trucking options there, and then yet again at you know, the NSIP sale in Spencer there at the end of the month. I think, I mean, typically that sale has as many online sold transit sheep there as sale sheep, and which is a good thing. So that's kind of what makes those live sales, you know, worth going to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a
So,
day of the week that's better for sales?
You know, yeah, that's a good question. Yes, I would say, and we've put out a couple, you know, and this has been a couple of years, but we put out a questionnaire one time to all of our contacts with some questions like that, as far as, you know, what day of the week do you like, what time do you like, you know, this and that, and yeah, I mean, the middle of the week is best for just strictly online sales, you know, that aren't, you know, in person or anything. I try to do most of mine on Wednesdays, but yeah, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday are best. You know, I think when we get into Friday and Saturday nights, people have other things going on and they're more likely to forget about them. Sunday nights are probably okay. Monday nights are typically fine too, I would say, but I would say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the most popular nights to have it. And again, just because of the timing, really, people are off work and at home typically on those nights. You know, we have done some sales, you know, again, like I said, this weekend, Todd's sale at the University of Wisconsin is on Saturday, and his is a different one. It used to be a live sale, but now he does it online. He does that on Saturday with a noon close, and it definitely, you got to get used to that, and you know, it's hard to keep track of that stuff during the middle of the day, I think. You know, while you're out working, or you know, eating dinner or whatever you might be doing. I think that's tricky. So, you know, if we're gonna do that kind of stuff, we really got to promote it. But again, he wants people to be able to show up there on sale day. So once we're talking about a live event like that, or you know, like the EAPK sale, you know, as far as travel goes and getting off work, you know, then I think we need to be on the weekends. But obviously in those sales, we're hoping a majority of the buyers are just at the sale or on location, and that's their one and only focus that weekend.
good info. Any other questions? I think you can speak now or forever hold your peace.
Like I said, I tried to get everything in there, but
Oh, you did a great job.
I'm sure there's some stuff I missed, and hopefully that answered some questions or give some people some ideas on you know, how to promote and market their livestock going forward.
Yeah, yeah, there was a lot of good information on there for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully I didn't put too much in there, but yeah. And if anyone ever has any questions on any of that stuff, I'm happy to help or answer questions that way. And you know, I don't know if there's enough information or too much in this PowerPoint, but I would be open to, I could share this with anyone if they want to see it or want to go back.
Yeah, I think it was great. So with no further questions, we'll thank everybody for coming on and spending your evening with us. And watch out for us there next month. Off the top of my head, I can't think who we have on there for next month. But so hopefully we'll see you all then next month and have a great evening. So thanks again there, Zach.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Thank
All right.
you.
Yep.